Tonight on Tortured Bourbon, we learn how to drink bourbon.
Have we been doing it wrong?
Stay tuned and find out.
What's up, Heather?
What's up, B?
So I hear you're going to teach me how to drink bourbon tonight.
That is the plan. Now, to be clear, we are not here to criticize anyone's preferred method for drinking brown liquor. But we do have a saying around here.
Oh, you do you, boo.
That's right, you say that a lot.
Yep.
But there are times when you might find yourself in an event with potential clients or colleagues who know a lot about bourbon and are paying for the good stuff, and you want to be able to participate in the conversation. And it's good to have some confidence there.
So it's kind of like when in Rome.
When in Rome, exactly. Well, so let's start with the basics.
Well, where do we begin?
Well, first we're going to start with what to order at the bar and how to order it.
You know, getting the bourbon to you is advantageous.
It's a very key step in the process.
Absolutely.
So the most common way to taste bourbon is either neat, which is just the bourbon in the glass, or on the rocks, which means it's served over usually a large cube or ball of ice, and that's so it dilutes slower.
And if you're drinking it, you can add a few drops of water. Could you pass me our little dropper there? So if you remember being in science class, so you just want to start with like one, and obviously you'll do it into the bourbon, not into the water. And don't, start with just a couple, and it'll sometimes make the flavor pop for you. Don't let,
That's right.
Water's good.
And that's what I call high quality H2O.
Don't let anybody shame you for adding some drops or adding an ice cube. If you like your drinks cold, you'll probably like your bourbon cold, and that's okay.
Yep. So if you want to put it on ice, we've got a rocks glass.
That's right.
And we got serves an ice cube right here. And just, so this is on rocks, and that's that.
So we've got the water dropper, we've got the rocks glass, and we've got neat.
Yep. So we're going to start with neat.
That's right.
We're going to start with neat. And tonight we're drinking Weller Reserve, special reserve, made by the good people, believe it or not, at Buffalo Trace. It's a wheated bourbon, the original wheated bourbon. Mm-hmm. And as you can tell, we've occasionally enjoyed some of this.
Just a few times.
And it was a gift, so thank you very much.
Yeah, I have a feeling we're not going to be using the rocks glass with that, but
No,
we'll have it just in case.
And just a shout out, the lovely couple who gave this to me are now living back in Kansas, and I hope they're doing well.
Oh, those are good friends.
They are good people.
So when you're tasting, so we've learned how to order. So
Yep.
now we're going to talk about how to taste it.
Sure.
So there's 4 things to evaluate. The first is the color. So you're going to pick it up. You're going to swirl it.
I'm swirling.
You're swirling very well.
I'm working on my swirl. All right.
So then you're going to look at the color. Usually it's going to be a nice amber color. Sometimes a little darker, sometimes a little lighter. This is kind of in the middle, I would say.
Yeah, it's not too dark.
Yeah. And then this also lets the bourbon breathe. So we're helping our bourbon get some breaths in, get some oxygen.
Oxygen. That's easy for me to say.
Mm-hmm.
We're giving some oxygen to the bourbon.
Some oxygen,
All right.
some O2 to the bourbon. All
so
right.
it's breathed.
So it's breathed. We've seen the color. We swirled it. So now we're gonna do the nose or the aroma. So give it another little swirl. All right, and then you're gonna smell it with your mouth slightly open. And this feels awkward, but it's the better way to smell it. I promise. And if you can't pick up really any scents on the first try, smell something else like your arm or your shirt. Don't smell other people's arms and shirts in a bar. That would probably get you kicked out. So make sure it's your own.
I guess it's depending on how classy the bar is.
That's true. And then smell it again. Use both nostrils.
I don't know how not to.
I don't really either, but hey, it's in the instructions.
Yeah.
And then you're going to know the aromas. So vanilla, caramel, oak, spice are very common.
All
right, so now we're 2 steps in. We got 2 steps left.
Excuse me, I'm sorry.
It's
What are
okay.
we supposed to be smelling?
Well, now we got to taste. What are we supposed to be smelling?
Yeah, what do you smell?
Well, with the Weller, I definitely get a vanilla. Probably a little caramel. some oak. What do you get?
I definitely get the caramel and the vanilla.
Mm-hmm.
There's a little spice on the back end of the smell, so I'm interested. And we've tasted it before, but we've never sat here and
we've never
dissected
analyzed it,
this, yeah.
right? So I'm going to be interested to see if the finish on the taste matches the finish on the smell.
Sure.
So that leads us into our next step, step 3, which is the palate or the flavor.
Okay.
So we're going to take a small sip, just enough to coat your tongue.
Okay.
So now you're going to note the different flavors, see which parts of your tongue are activated. And then like we were just talking about, is it similar to the smell or is it different? I'm going to do one more taste for science.
And I was just noting, this is a 90 proof.
Mm-hmm. So on the front end, I get the caramel, a little vanilla, but it gets spicier as it goes for me. So noting the mouthfeel, does it burn the tongue or the throat? I get a little bit of burn as it gets to the back of my mouth into the throat.
So what I was doing is I was kind of chewing it or swirling it a little bit. And
you really are working on your swirls this evening.
yeah, I am. And I didn't invent that. I saw the guy at Jim Beam do it on one of the videos in one of the movies, documentaries I've seen on bourbon. He called it the Kentucky Chew.
Well, there you go.
So I've been working
That
on
sounds like something else I grew up seeing people do.
Well, I think that was...
It sounds like chewing tobacco.
I'm sure there's some similarity. So I've been working on that a little bit. And I will tell you that it does... it did make the spice come out at the end. And it got lots of flavors up front. So maybe there's something to it. I'm not saying we should always sit around...
Well, but I mean, hey, it helps you note the mouthfeel.
Yep.
So did you get any burn at the end or no? I got a little bit.
All of the heat, for lack of burn, heat, spice, it was all at the back.
Right. It's not at the front at all.
Not at all.
Yeah,
no. This
I
is,
agree.
It's definitely weeded. It's definitely 90 proof.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you can tell.
So that leads us into our finish. So we know how long the bourbon's flavors linger after we swallow and what flavors remain. So I'm going to do another taste again for science.
For science?
For science.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm glad we're doing this for science. I wouldn't want to be enjoying this.
For me, it sweetens back up at the end. Like, that's what remains for me after I've already swallowed it, is the sweetness.
Yep, and that's where I get a little bit of the ethanol taste, a little bit of the alcohol taste. Some that hits you like on the nose, right?
Right, and that doesn't really do that.
It doesn't do that.
No.
I don't get that until the very end where it's kind of, what's lingering.
Right. But then the taste that lingers for me is like that vanilla caramel-y.
Yeah.
That's what I taste. I feel a little bit of the burn linger, but I can taste a little bit of the sweet.
Yeah.
And then also with the swirl, as we can see, B, your favorite topic, the legs of the bourbon.
I do like some legs. I like good legs. Me and Rod Stewart, we like good legs.
Listen to that song today.
That's a great song.
It's a great song.
Rod Stewart's very underappreciated for his voice.
I agree.
Incredibly
I would agree with that. On that, we can agree.
But yeah, the legs, and this is like if you go to a wine tasting. They're going to ask you to smell it. They're going to ask you to look at the color. They're going to ask you to look at the legs. They're going to ask you where it hits you on the palate. It doesn't taste anything like wine.
No.
But certainly, I think the processes are similar, and that should give people a little confidence if they've never been to a wine tasting or vice versa.
Yeah, you can apply the same parameters here.
Yeah.
So, do you feel more confident now?
Well, I mean, it ain't taking a shot of Jack at the OK Corral or anything.
No, it's not.
We're not down at Miss Betsy's pool hall taking shots of Jack.
Feels like a specific example.
Maybe. But, if this is for, people walk into a whiskey bar, there's certainly, if they haven't had a mentor, They haven't had someone who's willing to talk with them, and they haven't willing to open up and admit what they do and don't know. I mean, I think we're fortunate in that you and I have had a good relationship, and that when you and I don't know something, we just go, I ain't got a clue.
That, and we also don't mind to ask anybody anything.
Yeah, we ask questions, but it's very difficult. I mean, whether it be a social function where you're meeting someone for the first time, or someone you might think that you might want to see again, or if a business and you're trying to have a special relationship in business, sometimes, you know, they'll skip this because this can be uncomfortable.
Well, and especially, you know, obviously I can only speak for women in a traditionally male-dominated
Well, I've learned that
world.
I'm not going to speak for women. I know
I
that
think
for
that's a wise
fact.
choice. But I know that those social pressures during especially work happy hours are even more, because sometimes whether you're trying to talk to male colleagues, which I have wound up being the only female in this situation several times, or you're trying to talk to the bartender about it, you know, they tend to have kind of this attitude of you're just trying to get attention, or you know, that you don't really know what you're talking. And so it helps to be able to walk in and say, hey, I want Weller Special Reserve neat. You know, they're gonna look at you and say, oh, okay, she's had bourbon before.
Right.
And it feels good to know how, okay, I know to swirl it, I know how to smell it. And it does get you take it a little more seriously. It gives you a little more confidence.
And wouldn't the world be a better place if we could all just be a little bit more vulnerable?
I think it would, but I don't think that's for this podcast.
Well, yeah, we'll definitely challenging societal norms. We'll leave that for another 20
Hey,
minutes.
I'm already do that. Drinking the bourbon in the male-dominated career field,
we'll
you know?
We'll just solve the world here.
Solve the world's problems. And we'll do that on another day.
Yeah, let's
Solve all the world's problems.
That's gonna
I
be
think
a
the
heck of a-
Olympics is doing that.
Yeah,
That's what it's supposed to be doing, right?
We'll write a heck of a script for that one.
Speaking of another episode, this is actually part 1 of 2 parts. We're going to have the sequel coming out soon, and we're going to be tasting a couple bourbons and attempting to match the tasting notes that the distillers wanted us to get from it. So we'll see how close we can get.
Yeah, we're going to be tasting them relatively blind.
Yeah.
Relatively blind.
Yeah.
And our one of our producers is going to help us out there.
That's right.
So stick around until the next episode, and we're looking forward to it. And until then,
cheers, y'all.
cheers, y'all.